Happy Sunday night, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the J Area live stream. My name is Ramos Jr. Welcome back to the channel. And if you're a fan of professional wrestling, then you know you came to the right place. Super excited to have you guys here with us on a Sunday evening. We're starting a little bit earlier than traditionally wanted to see something, so we're going to try a little bit earlier today. For those of you who are joining us here on a Sunday, thank you very much for choosing to spend your time with us here on the J Area live stream. And with the Elimination Chamber, the last stop before WrestleMania. With that coming around the corner next weekend, we're going to go through every single Elimination Chamber matchup that started all the way back in November of 2002, all the way as of last year's Chamber event. We're going to go through each of them and give them a ranking on our trusty tier list maker. Of course, we'll get to that in a moment. We're going to allow people an opportunity to join us here on the live stream first, and that way we can start building up a little bit of momentum, building up a little bit of traction as we begin our ranking. Hopefully, the weekend has treated you well, and hopefully, the week ahead has many great things ahead for you as well. Thank you for joining us again on a Sunday evening. The Elimination Chamber, one of the perennial PLEs of the year for WWE. It's always one of those matches that we look forward to because it's the last stop before WrestleMania. For those who would win the Royal Rumble, they earn a championship opportunity to the title of their choice. And basically, whatever championship is left, hey, you got to go through the chamber in order to punch your ticket to the show of shows. We know that main event Jey Uso and Charlotte Flair have won their respective Royal Rumble matches, so that leaves behind questions, more questions than answers. Who will face Cody Rhodes for his WWE Championship, and who will face Rhea Ripley for her World Championship? We're going to find that out coming next week in Montreal, Canada. Can't wait to see it. Or rather, Toronto, Toronto, Canada. We're so used to seeing Montreal getting a lot of love when it comes to these PLEs, but actually Toronto. Can't wait for that. Should be a fun show. Again, if you're just joining us here on a live stream, we're going to be ranking every single Elimination Chamber matchup all the way from Survivor Series 2002 up until last year's Elimination Chamber event in Perth, Australia. I see some people beginning to join us here on the stream, so we're going to go ahead and build up our tier ranking here. Of course, we have our trusty tier ranking. It's also available in the description below if you're ever curious and you want to build up your own tier ranking. We have in the description a link below. I don't know about you, but I'm a big fan of lists. I'm a big fan of crafting my own ideas when it comes to rankings, whether it's pro wrestling or not. I enjoy it very much, so I want to give you guys that opportunity to enjoy it yourself. But with that being said, we'll go ahead and we'll start. The Elimination Chamber matchup began in November of 2002. It was introduced via Eric Bischoff, as he was the Raw general manager, who was very familiar with WCW. Of course, if you already know, Eazy-E, a big proponent of Monday Night Nitro, and having that stranglehold on the ratings war between Nitro and Monday Night Raw. See, the Elimination Chamber was developed as almost like a concoction of a combination, rather, of the Royal Rumble, the traditional Survivor Series matches, as well as War Games. You have 6 individuals locked inside of Chamber, where 2 will start the match and the remaining participants will be locked in a pod until further notice. Now, there will be intervals that will allow one individual to be released from their pod. I believe traditionally it's every 5 minutes. Other matches, we've seen it kind of dwindle down to 2 minutes. I think there was one that might have been 90 seconds. The fact is, we have 6 individuals to start, 4 enter throughout the matchup. The matchup is only won via pinfall or submission, as you have to eliminate the rest of the field. You withstand the competition and you outlast the others in the chamber, you get to have a one-way ticket to WrestleMania. At least, that's what it's been like in recent years. In the early years, the Elimination Chamber was basically one of the most demonic structures right next to Hell in a Cell. In the early years, there was a lot of carnage, a lot of danger that was associated with the matchup itself. And we've seen it go through variations and different looks and styles. Most recently, we have a lot more lighting, LEDs, to build up the presentation. And then as well as there's padding now surrounding the ring. Now, I know from the optics, it may look clean cut but it also kind of dwindles that sense of danger. But with that being said, it does help out the athletes. And I think first and foremost, you want to take care of the wrestlers. You want to take care of the athletes. So if that's allowing them that opportunity to stretch out their careers a little bit longer, I can make peace with it. But I'll always have a special place in my heart for those early iterations of the Elimination Chamber. And with that being said, I've seen a lot of people coming and going in the stream, so we're going to go and get this started. Beginning with 2002, November, the Survivor Series, the first ever Elimination Chamber matchup. It was that night that Shawn Michaels would win the World Heavyweight Championship, defeating the likes of Triple H, Booker T, Rob Van Dam, Chris Jericho, and Kane. Triple H, of course, was the champion going into the matchup, and it was Shawn's first championship victory since returning to action. He was gone from WrestleMania 14 back in March of 98. What a great year, by the way. And wouldn't come back until the summer of 2002. For me, it doesn't get any better than that original Elimination Chamber. It set the foundation. It set the mark of what this matchup should and could be moving forward in this new era of the WWE. With that being said, we have our different tiers when it comes to it. We have the S tier, the A tier, B, C, and D. No F tier. No F tier. We're trying to be a little bit lenient, even though there might be one or two that are very worthy of being at the bottom of our listings. Now, in order to keep consistency and have an idea of how we're ranking here, first and foremost, I do have to say this is my list. It's all on terms of my own opinion, my own perspective rather, of the matchups themselves. It's not the correct list, but it is my list. And if you want to make your own list, please feel free to do so. We have it in the link in the description there as well. I would love to hear from all of you in terms of what you think was the best chamber of all time. But when we go here, D is basically saying it's a dud. Wasn't a great chamber, forgettable, move on. As Bubba Ray would say, take care, brush your hair is what he would say. C, average, wasn't terrible, but again, still forgettable. It was okay. B, not bad, solid, fun is really what we're looking for. B is going to be a lot of those chambers where it wasn't on the elite level, but they were fun. A, top of the class. We're talking a standout. We're talking this is one of the best chambers, best fields, best moments, best winner. We're taking that into account, by the way. Not only how is the match, how is the overall field, the participants in the matchup, and who was the victor? Was it the right call? S, perfection. The best of the best. Can't get any better than that. With that being said, I've already talked a bunch in terms of hype. That original Elimination Chamber, when you had great spots like RVD hitting the 5-star frog splash, Shawn Michaels with the surprise sweet chin music onto Chris Jericho, Triple H battling through it all with an injured throat, and on top of that, I mean, again, it was the original. It's very hard to top it. That's why, for me, an immediate S tier. One of the very best matches that I've seen in 2002, which many consider to be a down year. It was, the first year following the invasion, no more competition. There was no WCW. There was no ECW. Ring of Honor and TNA were still in their infancy years. So it was really Raw versus SmackDown. They had to build their own competition. And I thought Raw really delivered with this matchup, especially during a time when SmackDown was recognized as the wrestling show. Raw was recognized as that show that, hey, it's all story driven. We had a little bit of duds when it came to Triple H and his reign of terror, running from 2002 to 2005. But this matchup for me really delivers. It holds up. I can still watch it 23 years later and still have a great time. It's a matchup that my brother and I visit frequently, and we're big fans of the video package with Saliva and the song Always. Big fan of it. Love it. Moving from there, that would be November of 2002. The following year, August of 2003, SummerSlam, emanating from Phoenix, Arizona, the U.S. Airways Center. Of course, that was what it was called back then. Not anymore. Not anymore. But it's in 2003. And we talk about Triple H and the reign of terror. This is right in the midst of it, where he was defeating everybody that ever came out of WCW. And there were a couple of names that were involved in that matchup here. Triple H, World Heavyweight Champion, would have to fend off individuals like Shawn Michaels, Randy Orton, Kevin Nash, Chris Jericho, and the newly signed Bill Goldberg Talk about a who's who. Every single individual on this list here either is or will be in the Hall of Fame. Same thing can be said about the 2002 Elimination Chamber matchup. So we lead into this matchup, and Triple H has already been the world champion for an extensive amount of time, right? He had won the world championship back at Armageddon 2002 in December, and had held it up until this point. So it kind of stems itself. The first chamber kind of leads into the second chamber, because Shawn Michaels wins that first chamber, relieving Triple H of his duties as the holder of the big gold belt. Triple H would regain the title in December, and then moving forward would defeat the likes of Scott Steiner, Booker T, Kevin Nash, and now we get to the chamber, and it's supposed to be this opportunity for someone to finally beat Triple H for the world championship, but also to see Bill Goldberg in action. This was his first big matchup. I mean, he had the matchup against The Rock at Backlash in April, but this was a big time to showcase Bill Goldberg, and we knew Triple H was actually running with an injury. That's why during this matchup, he had the kind of biker shorts that was a little bit of a different look for him at this point in time. The matchup itself was okay. I have fun with it because I like the talent involved. Jericho, Orton, Shawn, Triple H, Nash, and Goldberg are fine, but this was Goldberg at his peak in the WWE. Newly acquired, still fresh, still dominant. It was a solid matchup, I thought. The moment where Bill Goldberg spears Jericho through the pod is one of the early instances of that type of a spot in the chamber. It's a moment that I always go back to when I reminisce about this matchup. But the only issue with this, the big glaring issue with this, is the ending, the finish. It should have been Bill Goldberg. Triple H wins the world championship, and not only that, Goldberg dominates the majority of this matchup, right? And Triple H is still wounded. He's actually taken out of the matchup for quite some time because of Goldberg and Shawn Michaels. And he still finds a way to completely decimate Bill Goldberg and getting the victory, successfully defending the championship. And to make matters even worse, he drops the title the following month at the Unforgiven pay-per-view in September. I never understood that. If you're going to have him lose the championship, why wouldn't you do it in the chamber? A big coronation for Bill Goldberg. Have your rematch in September against, Triple H in a one-on-one capacity. It makes sense both in logical sense, but also narrative. And I don't know, it's something I still struggle with nearly 22 years later. I enjoy the matchup. The finish holds itself back for me. But again, we go to the fun category. I can put it in a B. I can have a good time with it. A lot of people have a sour take on the matchup. But for me, I'm totally fine putting it in the B category. The finish holds it back from being A. If Goldberg wins this matchup, I can put it in A. But for me, the finish was a little bit off. We move forward here. 2005. 2 years have now passed since the last time we've seen the chamber, and it's New Year's Revolution in San Juan, Puerto Rico, January of 2005. We're talking about Monday Night Raw. Again, it's when Triple H is the world champion. He has his reign of terror. He's been champion on and off again. Leading into this event, we have Triple H focusing on regaining the world title because it's vacant. He has a triple threat matchup against Edge and Chris Benoit. The finish itself is one of those instances where Edge and Benoit both get a Triple H to tap out, and they basically hold the championship up. So the best way to do it in their mind is to have an elimination chamber, and this one is stacked. Again, the first 3 elimination chambers are stacked. Hall of Famers on every level. This one has a glaring one person in the matchup where it's like, he who shall not be named. But nonetheless, this is a matchup where we see the likes of Chris Jericho, Edge, Chris Benoit, Batista, Randy Orton, and Triple H. A who's who of participants in Monday Night Raw. All legends in their own right, maybe with the exception of one, which is very obvious who I'm talking about there. And keep in mind, Shawn Michaels was also the special guest referee, adding another layer to this story. He has his issues with Edge, has his issues with Triple H, and to place him here, the first ever winner of the Elimination Chamber, in this capacity, it adds a little bit of drama, it adds a little bit of depth. Around this time, SmackDown and Raw in 2005, it can be shaky for some, but for me, I have a very fond memory of this time. And the roster at this point for the Elimination Chamber, top notch. I love the interactions that we get between Edge and Shawn Michaels. Batista has this great moment where he throws Chris Jericho into the cameraman, and I always love spots like that when you get the cameraman involved, and it gives you another perspective of the action itself. We also see a moment there where Randy Orton is getting the better of Batista, and as he's eliminating Batista, keep in mind, this is Evolution, when Batista and Triple H and Ric Flair are still a unit. Randy Orton no longer a part of the group ever since getting cut out of the team in August of 2004. So Batista is about to get eliminated, and you see Triple H begin to rise up in the corner as he wants to help his teammate in Evolution, but ultimately recognizing that it'll be one-on-one if he allows Batista to remain eliminated. Gives it that next level of depth, rather. And furthering the story between Batista and Triple H. Because now Batista goes back and realizes, like, hey, you could have helped me out and you didn't. You didn't. So Triple H and Randy Orton are the final two. It's the right call. These guys have been feuding since the summer. Randy, the young gun who wants to be the champion again. Triple H, the veteran who does not want to lose another opportunity at this World Championship. And he wins. He wins the championship. I believe this might have been his 10th title under the World Championship and WWE title in totality. Triple H wins it. I love this matchup. It's something I have fun with, and because of the interactions between like the Shawn, Edge, Batista, and Jericho, the finish itself I'm a fan of as well. This is a matchup that I look fondly upon, and I can put it at A. Again, maybe it's too high for some, but again, it's my list, and it may not be the right list, but hey, it's my feelings on it. Next up, we have 2006, the Elimination Chamber matchup in New Year's Revolution, emanating from Albany, New York, January of 2006. A little bit of a step down, if you ask me. Still talent. There's still talent, because you got John Cena, you got Shawn Michaels, you got Kurt Angle. That already there, sign me up. Then you have Kane, solid. No problem. You always need a big man. And then there's Carlito and Chris Masters, and it's very obvious that two of these are not like the others. Everyone else is very credible in terms of their pursuit of a world championship. Kane, Cena, Shawn, Angle, all former world champions, all having the ability to win that championship match and head to WrestleMania 22. Carlito and Masters, it was never any doubt for me. This, in fact, was the first Elimination Chamber matchup that I watched live. I was able to buy this pay-per-view with the permission of my parents, of course, because I was like 8 years old, I think, at this time. So we got to watch this matchup live. And big Cena fan growing up, at least up until this point. And Shawn and Angle are out early. Kane was never really a factor. And then once we get to the final three, which is Carlito, Masters, and Cena, it was academic. We all knew what was going to happen. We knew who was going to go over. There wasn't any doubt in my mind. It was John Cena, right? The way he did it was cool. You know, it allowed that level of suspense where it's like, okay, are Carlito and Masters going to get along and be able to complete this finish and make a one-on-one, determining who's the champion between them? But then Cena gets the upper hand. You know, Masters is eliminated by Carlito, and then Cena gets the pinfall on Carlito and ultimately wins. I enjoyed it, but in terms of its legacy in the chamber itself, I can't really put it at the top of the list. Is it good? It's okay. It's a fun matchup, but for me, it's not as good as the others. For me, it's an average showing, and I think a lot of people look at the finish. Cena gets this successful victory, but it's always the Edge cash-in that we remember. Edge, of course, the winner of the Money in the Bank contract a year earlier at WrestleMania 21. This would be when he decided to cash in the contract and defeat Cena. Everyone remembers the cash-in. I feel like the chamber itself is kind of left in the background. I'll put it at C. And by no means is it bad. It's just, it's there. It's average. It's not terrible, in my opinion. And then moving forward, we have 2006. The 2006 edition. Well, I was going to say edition, but really it's the only time they ever had the event of December to Dismember. ECW having their first and only pay-per-view event in the WWE's umbrella. And the matchup itself is widely regarded as one of the worst pay-per-views, first off, of all time. Heading into it, they only had two matches advertised. Of course, the Extreme Chamber and then Eminem versus the Hardy Boys. In the chamber itself, though, we had participants like RVD, Rob Van Dam, one of the all-time greats. Then we also had Test, Hardcore Holly, CM Punk, Bobby Lashley, and The Big Show. For a matchup that's advertised as the Extreme Elimination Chamber and being an ECW pay-per-view, we really only have one individual who is synonymous with Extreme Championship Wrestling, and that's Rob Van Dam. CM Punk, I thought, was a great acquisition, a great addition to the matchup as well, as he was leading the new blood, no pun intended, for the ECW brand. The one that really sticks out is Bobby Lashley, who would actually end up winning the chamber matchup. And I think in execution, it's fine because we wanted to see Bobby Lashley exceed. We wanted to see him become a main event star, but not on ECW. I would very much like to see him with the World Championship and contending on Friday Night SmackDown. But instead, they went the route with ECW, and it just never seemed like a proper fit. The matchup itself is widely regarded as one of the worst matches in WWE history. On top of that, being a part of the main event of the show that caused Paul Heyman his job, and we wouldn't see him for 6 years. There's literally nowhere else I can put this matchup except at the bottom. If there was an F tier, I would put it there, but it's not. So we're gonna have to put it at a D, and that's being quite generous with it. So next on the list here, we have 2008. The Elimination Chamber finally gets its own pay-per-view, essentially, except it's No Way Out. Not necessarily the Elimination Chamber event just yet. It's No Way Out. 2008, Las Vegas, Nevada, and we're looking forward to it, right? I mean, it's something fresh, something new. For the first time ever, we're getting 2 Elimination Chamber matches as well. And the difference with this one is that it's the first opportunity here. It's the first opportunity here where it's for a championship match at WrestleMania. It's not for the title. Not for the championship. You win this matchup, and you're actually going to get a championship opportunity at the show of shows. Because John Cena won the Royal Rumble that time, and he cashed in at No Way Out to fight against Randy Orton, which I think is a very questionable call. If I'm John Cena, why am I going to be cashing in at the show before WrestleMania? You want to win it at the big show, right? That's a story for another time. The first one here that we're talking about is the SmackDown Elimination Chamber that is very top heavy. The finish itself involved... Hold on, we got something with it. Is that it's the first opportunity here. It's the first opportunity where... Bear with me here. I see we have a little bit of a audio issue. Just want to double check. We just refreshed the stream, checked on the microphone. You might hear a little bit of an echo because down below I have my phone with the stream on as well to double check and see how the audio is coming out. Bear with us here. I'm just going to keep going, and then hopefully those in the chat will let us know how we're sounding. We were talking about 2008. The Elimination Chamber had an interesting array of talent, especially in the SmackDown one. In SmackDown, very top heavy, Batista, The Undertaker. And then from there, it kind of falls off, because then we have Big Daddy V, and then we have Finlay, MVP, and the Great Khali. So quite a drop when it comes to the main event scene in 2008, at least on Friday nights. But it was also a half-breed with ECW, which is interesting enough. Let me know in the chat how it's coming out. It should be good now. I refreshed everything and I adjusted the settings. And I see on my end it's a little bit delayed just because of the playback when it comes to the stream. Sounds better. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for the feedback. Appreciate that. So in 2008, it was very limited in terms of the main event scene. Batista and The Undertaker were the final two. And if it wasn't for Batista and The Undertaker, I would have dropped this matchup a lot lower because of the lack of quality in it. I think one of the best spots was when MVP got thrown from the top of the pod to the floor, or I guess to the mat rather. And that final sequence between Batista and The Undertaker really saves this matchup from being a D. It's not a D in my opinion. Could it have been? Very much so. Very much so. But it wasn't. It wasn't terrible, but it's for me, it's average. So when it comes to the Batista Undertaker finish, it doesn't do enough for me to put it above a C. It's an average showing. Its most memorable moment is the finish when it's the Undertaker and Batista. Batista has the Undertaker over his shoulder as if he's going to hit a running power slam, and then Undertaker counters it by countering his weight and leading into the Tombstone Piledriver, cementing him as the number one contender and being able to challenge Edge at WrestleMania 24. Aside from that, it was okay. Next up, the same night, 2008, No Way Out edition, Raw. We have another number one contenders matchup here for an opportunity at Randy Orton's WWE title at WrestleMania 24. We knew that John Cena had cashed in his Royal Rumble opportunity at the No Way Out show, so it opened up an opportunity for a new number one contender. Now, in contrast to SmackDown, which I thought that their list of participants was all over the place, Raw had a solid field. JBL, Umaga, Chris Jericho, Jeff Hardy, Shawn Michaels, and the eventual winner, Triple H. This, to me, is as good as it could get for the Elimination Chamber. Everyone is a viable, option in terms of winning. Even down to JBL, who I think is one of the best heels the WWE has ever had. Book it. If you don't like it, sorry. It's my opinion. But the winner would be Triple H. And we get a great showing between him and Jeff Hardy. This is now one of those times where we're going to see Jeff Hardy really step out of his comfort zone and become a main eventer. He had a matchup at the Royal Rumble for that WWE title against the champion Randy Orton. So he was already on his way. Triple H wins the matchup, probably the right call because it was just making sense between him and Randy. They introduced John Cena in a triple threat match, but now we're getting too much into the weeds of the build of the WrestleMania 24. I enjoyed this matchup. I enjoy the little, minute details, whether it's like JBL swinging the chair at everybody because he's upset he's eliminated, Shawn Michaels being the original winner of the Chamber, his history with Triple H, Triple H's history with Jeff Hardy because they had a matchup to determine the number one contender for the title not too long ago, a couple months before. And then, of course, Umaga. Who doesn't love Umaga? I put this at the B. I think it's solid. I think it's above average. I think it's a great addition to the list of matches. And now we're going to hit a point in time where a lot of these chambers aren't actually bad. They're solid, I think is the right word to use. Following this, we would go to 2009 No Way Out, which is regarded as one of the better shows the WWE had produced during this time. Basically, the Edge pay-per-view. For those who don't remember, Edge was the WWE champion heading into the show, had his chamber matchup where he would actually lose. It was a WWE Championship Elimination Chamber match that would also have the likes of The Big Show, Jeff Hardy, The Undertaker, Vladimir Kozlov, and Triple H. Loaded. If your weakest link is Vladimir Kozlov and the other 5 are bona fide Hall of Famers, that is not bad. That is not bad at all. Of course, Edge would lose the matchup. He was one of the first ones eliminated by Jeff Hardy, so we were guaranteed a new champion at the end of the matchup. That champion would be Triple H, Mr. Elimination Chamber, at least up until this point, because this would be his 4th Chamber win. One of the best participants in the Chamber's history. And again, a solid showing. I very much enjoyed this matchup, and it's for that reason. I just want to make sure I had the right one there. And for that reason, I'm going to put it at B. Again, a solid showing, I thought. But then following that, we get the Raw Chamber, which had John Cena as the world champion heading into it, Chris Jericho, Kane, Mike Knox, Rey Mysterio, and initially Kofi Kingston. The reason I say initially is because he was supposed to be in the matchup, but Edge, who had lost earlier in that first Chamber match, would emerge from the back, attacking Kofi Kingston and taking his spot in the matchup. A SmackDown guy heading onto Monday Night Raw because he wants to win the World Championship. If it's Edge, it makes sense. He's the ultimate opportunist. What's going on? Seth freaking Rollins in the chat. What's going on? Appreciate you joining us here on a Sunday night. We're talking about the Elimination Chamber, ranking every single matchup leading up to the next Chamber match in 2025. Of course, being next week. What's going on? So, 2009, Edge enters the matchup, takes Kofi's spot. I think it's one of the best executed moments for Edge. He also helps eliminate John Cena. Very reminiscent to the earlier matchup where now it's like, hey, anybody could be the champion at this point because the champ's already gone. And Edge has this great show off with Rey Mysterio, two of the best at what they do. I love this matchup. For me, it's one of the better ones during this time. I put it at an A. I really have a good time with this. And the fact that it's surrounded by talent like Edge, Cena, Rey Mysterio, Jericho, and then you got a guy like Mike Knox involved. Like Mike Knox, with all due respect to Knox, but who'd he ever beat, right? And he's a part of this matchup, and it's still solid. Good job for them. Good job for them. We're now in 2010. 2010, which I believe was the first Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. And this, for me, is a difficult one to rank. Because they're very, very dependent on what happened after the matchup. We don't really remember what happened in the matchup. I talk about the Raw Elimination Chamber. John Cena, Randy Orton. We also had the likes of Ted DiBiase, Triple H, and Sheamus. Kofi Kingston as well, I forgot to mention him. And people remember it really for Batista winning the championship after, because Vince McMahon gave him that opportunity. This one for me is a forgettable one. John Cena does win the championship back, but he only holds it for 5 minutes. I put this in D. It's very forgettable, and it's outshined by the 2010 SmackDown Chamber matchup, where we had moments like CM Punk having his little sermon, his service during the matchup, praising straight edge society. Jericho winning the world championship because Shawn Michaels makes the attack on The Undertaker, which I thought was one of the best creative finishes in a chamber, especially because of the story that was being told between Shawn and The Undertaker for their rematch at WrestleMania 26. For those of us who are familiar with the channel, you already know I'm very biased towards WrestleMania 26, but nonetheless, a good showing. I enjoy it. Is it one of the better ones? No, I think it's above average, but for me, I'm going to put it at C just because of how forgettable it is. CM Punk and the finish for me are the only ones I remember about it. Could you argue B? Absolutely, and I wouldn't fault you for it. I wouldn't fault you for it at all. In fact, I might want to put it at B, but I just know about the other matches that come afterward, and I can't put it over. Jericho wins that one. Dion, what's going on? Thank you for joining us here on the live stream on a Sunday. We're talking Elimination Chamber. Appreciate you joining us here on a Sunday night. How you doing? Hopefully the weekend treated you well. Glad to see you here, my friend. We're on 2011. 2011, a sore spot in the WWE. This was kind of the dark ages now. We're in the PG era for WWE, and its creative wasn't really the best. This chamber matchup had Edge, Big Show, Drew McIntyre, a young Drew McIntyre, as well as Kane, Rey Mysterio, and Wade Barrett, all competing for the World Championship. This would basically determine who would face Alberto Del Rio at WrestleMania 27. This matchup I enjoy, mostly because of the finish. Again, it always depends on how you finish. Rey and Edge start the matchup, and they finish the matchup. Very similar to 2009, where they competed at the No Way Out event for the World Championship. And it falls in line with that 2009 event, which is why, for me, I can put it at B. I have fun with this one. It's solid action, and it's very interesting to see a young Wade Barrett and a young Drew McIntyre at this point in their careers. We have over 30 matches here to rank, so we're going to start going a little bit quick here because I do want to get to the comments and the chats and see what your guys' perspective is on this listing, as well as where you would put certain matches. That same night in 2011, we had another chamber matchup that would determine who would be the number one contender for the Miz's WWE title. It was a good field. And that's one thing that the chamber has always been able to do, is provide a good field of participants. 2011, we saw Randy Orton, Sheamus, CM Punk, John Cena, and then there's The Miz and R-Truth. But at this point, I like R-Truth, or rather, not The Miz. That's a typo there. Sanford 5 says, it is I. Sanford 5 in the chat. What's going on? John Morrison was in 2011. My mistake there. That one itself, though, is again falling into average. During this time period, a lot of them became average for me. They kind of blend in with one another. Everyone had like their own specific spot, like a memorable moment in the matchup, but nothing spectacular, personally, at least for me. After that, we moved into 2012. And I'm very fond of the 2012 Elimination Chamber because of the champions heading into it. Daniel Bryan and CM Punk, both champions. I was a big Bryan and Punk fan at this point in time. Speaking of big fan, what's going on, Gabs? Appreciate you. Acknowledge Gabs in the chat. I see it. We're starting to see all our friends come into the chat. Appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for joining us as well. How you guys doing? I'm hoping you guys are doing good. Hopefully all is well. Love seeing the familiar, friendly faces in the chat, so thank you again for joining us here tonight. Got the chamber just around the corner, so for those of us who are just joining the stream, we're doing a live ranking of every single Elimination Chamber, starting all the way back in 2002. We're currently in 2012. CM Punk was defending his WWE Championship against the likes of Chris Jericho, against the likes of Dolph Ziggler, Kofi Kingston, The Miz, and R-Truth. A solid showing from Punk, but the matchup itself was okay. The spot with Chris Jericho where he gets knocked out of the cage and basically is deemed unable to compete, I thought was a cop-out, but I get it. Every now and then, you need to have something like that, I suppose. I just want to make sure I have the right one in order. With that being said, I put it at a high C. Love Punk, that's my guy. But the chamber itself gets overshadowed by the SmackDown one. The SmackDown one, interestingly enough, listen to the field. Daniel Bryan, The Big Show, Wade Barrett, a young Cody Rhodes, The Great Khali, and Santino Marella. Again, one of these is not like the other. Every single person on this list has had a championship match except for Santino Marella. They were building it up as like the Rocky Balboa of this story. I love this match. It's a guilty pleasure match of mine because of how they build up Santino. There was a moment there where we honestly thought that Santino was going to win. I see Gabs, I see you in the chat saying the sound's coming in and out. Here, bear with me in a moment. I tried resetting the microphone there. Hopefully, we've been having issues with it recently on the streams. I'm not sure. There's some streams where it works fine. Sanfran 5 says refresh it. It should be good. I reset the microphone, which is basically fancy talk for I unplugged it and plugged it back in. And now we're refreshing the stream here. So hopefully that gives us a little bit of leeway when it comes to the audio. You might hear a little bit of echo in the background because I have it on my phone playing, just because I want to hear the playback and see how it's doing. It's a little bit delayed in terms of the playback, and it sounds okay on my end. Hopefully it's not a widespread thing where everyone's being affected. But like I said, I checked the microphone, refreshed the stream like Sanfran suggested, so hopefully we're able to get the ball rolling from there. I think we're okay. Otherwise, let me know in the chat, and we'll see from there. But 2000 and where was I? 2012. Santino nearly wins the Chamber. Obviously, it was never in doubt. That's I just realized that the camera for some reason acting up. Wow, we're really having some issues tonight, aren't we? As long as you guys can still hear me, then I can rock with that. I'm getting my feedback here from San Fran. Always reliable, appreciate that. But for some reason, we might have to go blind here. As long as the microphone's okay and you guys can hear me, I'm okay with that. For some reason, the camera has frozen, and the way I fixed that, I'd have to restart it, but I don't want to lose the stream. So you guys are going to have to just hear my voice. So hopefully we don't lose that. But we're back. Okay, 2012. It gives me a little bit. Gab says, I'm sorry. I feel like it only happens to me. No worries. Hey, honestly, if it's affecting one person, that's already too many people that it should be affecting. I want to allow to have everyone enjoy the very same product. I don't want anyone to feel left out. Gab says it sounds good now. That's good. So, unfortunately, we lost the camera. For some reason, that cut out. And again, I don't want to lose the stream itself. So, we're just going to be looking at the screen together, and it kind of gives me a little sense of peace knowing you're not looking at me. But we're back in 2012. Again, thank you for the feedback, everybody in the chat. Thank you so much for giving me that feedback and letting me know what can be improved, because that's the biggest thing to me. I want to be able to consistently provide quality, entertainment for you guys. So if at any time the camera or the audio is cutting in and out, let me know. I'll try to get on it as soon as I can. But unfortunately, we're going to rock with just the voice here. Or fortunately, I don't know. Maybe some of you are fans of the voice. I don't know. Anyway, without further ado, or without further delay, really, I'm going to put the 2012 World Championship Elimination Chamber at a B. I'm a fan of this one. Again, a guilty pleasure of mine. Is it the best one? Absolutely not. Is it one of the fun ones? Yes. Yes, it is. So I'll put it there. Following that, we have the 2013 event. 2013, I think, was one of those instances where they were really either they were running out of guys to push, or they were really stretching it, because they had Jack Swagger win the Chamber. This was one that had Randy Orton, Mark Henry. There was also Daniel Bryan, Kane, Chris Jericho. A lot to go with here, and this was around the time that they were trying the We the People, Real American gimmick, where they had the Don't Tread on Me flag. Kind of a controversial gimmick there for a time being with Jack Swagger. I admire the effort in trying to put over new talent, but in hindsight, not a good Chamber. With that being said, D. Now this next one, 2014. What a crowd. Randy Orton, Cesaro, Christian, Daniel Bryan, Sheamus, and Cena. This would be the last Chamber matchup heading into WrestleMania 30, where Daniel Bryan would win the title, finishing his story and becoming a world champion. And I'm a fan of this one. In hindsight, I think it works because we know what happened at WrestleMania 40. At that time, we didn't really like it because we wanted Bryan to win, but it kept building up the momentum that was the rise of Bryan Danielson / Daniel Bryan. I look fondly upon it now, In the moment, yeah, I wasn't really a fan of it. But looking back at it now, I can safely put this at a B. I enjoy this one. Again, for those of us who are joining the live stream, we're doing a live ranking of every single Elimination Chamber matchup all the way from 2002 until last year's 2024 event. S being perfect, no notes. A being, hey, one of the best of the best. B, solid, a fun matchup. C, it's average. And then D, as in a dud. Wasn't a fan of it. Could do without it, or it's simply forgettable. And ironically enough, that's the next one that we have here. The Tag Team Championships. Loaded. I mean, New Day, Cesaro and Tyson Kidd, Los Matadores, Ascension, the Lucha Dragons, and the Primetime Players. I wouldn't fault you for forgetting about this one. We can just move past it. After that, I don't have an F category, but this one would be the F category. For the vacant Intercontinental Championship, we had the likes of Ryback, Dolph Ziggler, Wade Barrett, Mark Henry, Truth, and Sheamus. I don't have an F category, but it would be there. It was for the Intercontinental Championship. It was the first time they were going for a mid-card elimination chamber, but it was just so heavily, influenced by the botches. I know it's not supposed to be perfect. It's very difficult to execute a perfect match or a perfect show, but this matchup, its pacing, the mistakes that were made, the winner that being Ryback, top to bottom, throw it in the bin, forget it ever happened. I would not fault you if you turned the show off after this matchup, because I don't even think it was the main event. So, not a fan. Moving on. I'll tell you what I am a fan of. 2017. Funny enough, 2017 was also in Arizona. And it was when Bray Wyatt finally wins the WWE Championship. And what a moment, right? AJ Styles and John Cena are in this matchup. It also had guys like Baron Corbin and The Miz and Dean Ambrose. So not a bad grouping at all. But when you have Bray Wyatt winning his first ever world championship, a great moment that led to an okay title reign. But we're not going to talk about the title reign. The matchup itself, I look very fondly upon. I think it's one of the best chambers in the modern era. This, of course, happened, 8 years ago? But still, post the Elimination Chamber matchup being introduced into a pay-per-view, into a PLE, this is one of my favorites. In 2018, we're now more than halfway through the field. We finally got a women's Elimination Chamber. It took many years, but we finally got it. Alexa Bliss defends her championship, and unfortunately with this matchup, it is the original, but I don't think it really lives up to the hype. I think there are plenty of other solid women's Elimination Chamber. This one is very remembered for the ending when Alexa Bliss had her segment, her promo rather, where she kind of cut a babyface promo, but then ultimately reverted back to her heel. And it was just a perfect example of how she can master the mic and manipulate the emotions of the audience. A great showing by Alexa Bliss. It was cool to see someone like Mickie James back in the mix. And of course, Bayley and Sasha Banks, two of the best the WWE has to offer. By no means is it bad, but at the same time, I really can't put it above average. So I'll put it somewhere in C. After that, we have the men's. This was the first and only time we had 7 men in the matchup here. Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, Braun Strowman, The Miz, John Cena, Elias, and the winner, Roman Reigns. This was a matchup here, again, forgettable. We knew who was going to win. It was going to be Roman. There's really no notes about it. You had a lot of potential with star power. Like I said, you had guys like Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, and John Cena in there. Roman's solid, but this is again during the big dog era where it was heavily forced down the fans' throat that, hey, this is going to be the new big guy and you're going to like it. So again, for me, should have been a lot better. I'm going to put it at D, and it's a shame. Because with that kind of talent, you would think it'd be better. Another first, in 2019, we had the first ever Women's Tag Team Championships being defended, and it would crown the first ever tag champions as well in the chamber. A good showing here by all the women involved. They picked the right winners in Sasha Banks and Bayley. A fun tag team showing. I also like the ending of the matchup where it was kind of teasing the breakup between Sasha and Bailey, and also making references to their first showing in the Chamber a year prior. This matchup for me, fondly looked upon. I can put this here at a high C. A high C, personally. After that, we have 2019 SmackDown. Bryan Danielson or Daniel Bryan. I always get one or two mixed up. It's all the same guy. He is the WWE champion heading into this matchup, and the real story is Kofi Mania. Kofi Mania finally getting some traction, and the fans got behind him. They wanted him to win the World Championship. They wanted to see him on top and become the latest WWE champion. And the contrast between he and Daniel Bryan was so interesting because it mirrored each other. Daniel Bryan's rise to the top was not too dissimilar to that of Kofi Kingston. So when you put Daniel Bryan in that position of being like the corporate champion essentially, and Kofi Kingston being in the position of Bryan where he was, 5 years earlier, it's a really well-crafted story that kind of fell into their lap because it was originally supposed to be Mustafa Ali in this matchup, but because of an injury, he couldn't go. So Kofi Kingston takes his spot in the matchup, and it results in magic. Kofi Kingston really gets over in this matchup, and the fans want it so bad to see him win the championship. We don't get it here. We had to wait a couple more months until WrestleMania, but I have to put this at A. It's a really good matchup, and again, similar to like the 2017 match, it's a high watermark in terms of the modern chamber match. Following that, we've hit the point again. There's highs and there's lows when it comes to these type of matches, because we get a few stretches of matches where they're really solid, they're really good, and then there's other ones where it's like, okay, they're about average, and now we're hitting the average. In 2020, we had the tag team championships on the line with teams like Lucha House Party, Heavy Machinery, Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode, Miz and Morrison, and then two of the greatest tag teams of all time, The New Day and The Usos. Not a matchup I was necessarily looking forward to at the time, and still one that I basically forget actually happened. And with that being said, I want to put it higher. I really do. But because of how forgettable it is, I'm going to put it at D. They really got to do better with their tag team elimination chambers, in my opinion. Following that, we had the women's elimination chamber that saw Shayna Baszler make her long-awaited ascent towards the top of the card, winning the chamber matchup, single-handedly defeating Asuka, Liv Morgan, Natalya, Ruby Riott, and Sarah Logan. Now, for Shayna Baszler, great showing. For the match, not necessarily what I want to see inside of a chamber. I see you, Muhammad. What's going on? Thank you for joining the live stream here. Muhammad says happy Sunday and hopes that everyone's doing well as well as their weekend, and same with everybody. Hopefully you're doing well too, my friend. But I tell you what wasn't doing well was that women's matchup in 2020. Just little to no drama, no suspense. Shayna Baszler was going to win the matchup, and she completely just derails the entire matchup when she enters at number 4. Had she entered at number 6 or 5 and then goes on to eliminate everybody, I think maybe I'd have a better ranking for it. But because there were moments where it slowed down and it was showing that Shayna Baszler was just standing around waiting for the next participant, really deflating the matchup itself, and it could have been so much better in terms of execution. The idea was there, but again, the execution kind of failed on itself. So I have to put it at D. Forgettable, keep it moving. 2021 was, of course, the era of the Thunderdome, where we saw a championship being defended, and we saw a championship opportunity being offered on the table. Daniel Bryan would win the original one in the first opener matchup, defeating the likes of Cesaro, Jey Uso, Kevin Owens, King Corbin, and Sami Zayn. Solid. I love this matchup. I love the people involved. I'm a fan of it. I put it at B. As for its Raw counterpart, which had the likes of Drew McIntyre, there was also AJ Styles, Jeff Hardy, Kofi Kingston, and Sheamus. I believe Randy Orton as well, if I haven't named him. Very similar. I mean, solid. For the Thunderdome, it was very difficult to enjoy these matches because there was no crowd. But we do get a crowd later in the year. But thankfully, these chamber matchups weren't too bad. Entertaining, and again, a high watermark for an era in wrestling that many people kind of moved past. But then in the following year, after the type of matches we saw in 2021, they take a big, a big dip in 2022. Saudi Arabia becomes the home of Elimination Chamber 2022. And the men and women's matchup for me both fall into the same category because one, they are very short. Now, I'm not saying that the chamber has to be 2 hours long, but both matches were sub 15 minutes. This was when we had participants coming out like literally every minute. The women's matchup, better than the men's, at least. I mean, Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss, Piper Niven, Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley, and Nikki ASH. Right winner, but again, it flew by. It didn't feel like a legitimate chamber for me. And as for the men, because these both are going to go in the D category, the men's is very frustrating. Like, I remember watching this being dumbfounded. Brock Lesnar had won the WWE Championship, lost the WWE Championship at the Royal Rumble, re-enters the championship scene by winning the Royal Rumble to face Roman, and again enters the chamber and wins this championship. So now, for the first time ever, the winner of the Royal Rumble wins the championship at the Elimination Chamber and now gets a championship opportunity at WrestleMania. But the way it's done and the way he just decimates the entire matchup itself, I'm not, by any means, I'm not anti-Brock Lesnar, but this was around the time where I started getting fed up and I was like, you know what? He has nothing left to prove. His career is what it is. I would not be upset if he retired. Because at this point, I was already getting sick of it. It was a shame. It was a shame, and quite frankly, it was a sham of an Elimination Chamber. No doubt in my mind, it should be universally discussed as one of the worst chamber matches. I really do not like that 2022 event of the Elimination Chamber. But we get a step up here, because that would be the final chamber event in the Vince McMahon era. Triple H then takes the reins in 2022, the summer that is. So 2023's chamber, we saw a really good mid-card matchup here. We saw the Intercontinental title being defended back in 2015 and commonly recognized as one of the worst matches there was. But then we have this matchup, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Austin Theory, the U.S. champion, who wasn't really doing much with his title reign, but had a good showing here, I thought. He had the matchup against Bronson Reed, Damian Priest, Gargano, Seth Rollins, and then Montez Ford with quite the showing. I mean, this guy was a spot machine in the matchup, and it still has us believing that he could be a major single star. They haven't pulled the trigger yet. Don't know if they're ever going to pull the trigger, but Montez Ford really has a great showing here. A solid matchup, and again, the key word, a fun matchup, and that's why I have it in the B category. As for its women's counterpart, a good field, a good showing. Again, I can confidently put this one in the B category. Asuka defeats the likes of Raquel, Nikki Cross, Natalya, Liv Morgan, and Carmella. Having a good matchup here. It really helps to have talent involved. Finally, we reached the final two, and I feel like this stream has been flying by. First of all, I do want to say that I apologize to everybody here for the technical difficulties. I know the microphone's been cutting in and out, and we're flying blind here because the camera itself decided to act a fool, and we got to pull the plug on the camera. But we're now in the final two. 2024, the Elimination Chamber that was from Perth, Australia. A great crowd here, and they made sure to let everybody know that it was Tiffy time because this was her big moment. This was when we really got to see the rise of Tiffany Stratton from NXT to the main roster. A good showing for her, a good showing for people like Naomi and Liv Morgan and Becky Lynch. Bianca Belair, strong showing here. I enjoyed this matchup. I think it was the right call to have Becky Lynch go over. Unfortunately, it was the predictable call. And for that, predictability can be okay because sometimes the obvious call is the right call. But it does take away from me. I'm going to put it at C. I enjoyed the Asuka one just a tad more. But they managed to end on a high note. Drew McIntyre's Elimination Chamber victory by defeating the likes of Bobby Lashley, Logan Paul, Kevin Owens, LA Knight, and Randy Orton. A good showing here. The outcome may have been a bit predictable, like the women's, but Randy and Drew having a strong showing, and just overall a contrast of styles of guys like a big boy, like Bobby Lashley, an athletic freak like Logan Paul, Randy Orton, the veteran, LA Knight, the brash up-and-coming star, and the eventual winner, the Scottish psychopath, Drew McIntyre. A little bit for everyone in this matchup. I think highly of this matchup, and I hope that this year, this one I'm going to put in B, but I hope that this year we can live up to that expectation that it's set forward. A great field for the men's Elimination Chamber matchup. Of course, we're talking about the likes of Damian Priest, John Cena, CM Punk, Seth Rollins, Logan Paul, all involved in this matchup. Can't wait for it. And hopefully, like I said, hopefully, it's able to live up to the standard that was set in last year's Chamber matchup. I want to hear from you guys in the chat there in terms of what do you think about the Chamber listings here. Are some higher or some lower? We only have one in the S tier, and it's the original. I might be biased, but I really enjoy that original Chamber. It's very difficult to top, in my opinion. It's the only S tier. We have a couple of A's in there as well between 2006, 2009, 2017, and 2019. B is really loaded because there's a lot of fun chambers. I mean, they're not on the elite level for me per se, but there's a lot of fun chambers. And unfortunately, when it comes to C and D, there's a lot of average to below average as well. So love to hear from you guys in terms of the chat and what you guys think about the chamber. What are some of your favorite Elimination Chamber moments? And maybe who do you believe will come out of Canada, the winners of both the men and women's Elimination Chamber matches? Of course, this week we will have predictions videos liven up on the channel. Of course, that's when I take the opportunity to share a little bit of a perspective and hype towards the premium live event and share my thoughts on every match, as well as giving a prediction as to who will win each matchup. So there, make sure you check out that video. That'll be going out some point in the middle of the week. And of course, we have an episode of the J Area Wrestling Podcast tomorrow afternoon where I'll give you guys the scoop. We're going to be talking about The Rock. We're going to be talking about that Rock promo on Friday Night SmackDown where he talks to Cody Rhodes saying that he wants his soul and basically to have Cody become the next corporate champion, something The Rock had done back in '98. Without going into a little bit of details, that's what we're going to be discussing on tomorrow's episode, so I look forward to sharing that with all of you. But a big week ahead for the WWE. Of course, Elimination Chamber being the last PLE for the main roster, that is, until WrestleMania 41. A lot to be discussed, a lot to be determined for the matchups ahead at WrestleMania. Very fluid in terms of their storytelling, and nothing seems to be concrete just yet. Salvi says, doing a great show among technical difficulties. I agree with your pick so far. Appreciate that, Salvi. Thank you so much. You know, we have to think on the fly here. Sometimes, not every stream's going to be perfect. You know, not to say that every stream is perfect at all, but sometimes we do have a little bit of technical difficulties. The microphone, the camera might be wanting to put up a fight, but regardless, we're not going to give up. We're going to keep on persisting and try to give you guys entertaining wrestling discussions as we've been doing throughout the course of the last several months. So again, I appreciate you guys joining us tonight on a Sunday evening, ranking the chamber matches. A lot of chamber matches, man. I didn't realize there were so many until, I looked at the listings. But it's 30 plus. I believe the number was 34 chamber matches as of now, not counting the two that are coming up. But regardless, hey, I appreciate it. Appreciate the compliment. And thank you for bearing with us here on the technical difficulties. Got a little bit of stuff to look forward to in terms of fixing and relegating of the microphone there. I've never had issues with it before. These last couple streams, it's kind of cut in and out. And as for the camera, I know what happened with the camera. That's something I can fix, no problem. It's just I couldn't do it live on stream because it might kick the stream, and I don't want to lose all our viewers here and have to create a secondary. But that's what we're working with here. But regardless, hey, that's what we're working with. It is a Sunday. I almost said a Thursday. A Sunday stream. We still have our other streams throughout the week. Monday, of course, we're going to have a stream following Monday Night Raw, discussing the fallout there and the lead into Elimination Chamber. And then, of course, Thursday, we're going to have another stream. I'm going to put up a poll tomorrow morning. I didn't put a poll up today, so I'm going to put up a poll tomorrow morning for what we're going to discuss on Thursday's live stream. A lot of people seem to have enjoyed the Randy Savage topic, and love to hear that because that was one that I chose selfishly Usually I have the poll up, but last week I didn't because I really wanted to talk about that one. So glad you guys enjoyed that live stream. We're going to have 4 new topics to discuss, and hopefully everyone's as enthusiastic as I am to do them. Might also do an extra live stream throughout the week, maybe Wednesday. I know I talked about a watch along Wednesdays. Still working on that. Want to build up a little bit of hype and anticipation in regards to those streams. So that's still a work in progress, but I always try to keep you guys in the know. I do kind of want to do another 2K gameplay. Haven't done one of those in a minute, so that'll be interesting to do, especially with the chamber coming up. Maybe do some predictions. Maybe have a predictions video just talking about the matchup, and then a stream where we actually just simulate the matches that are going to be taking place this upcoming Saturday at Elimination Chamber. So again, like I always say, the community tab, the community posts are your best friend. That's where you're going to get information, where whether or not we're going to go live or not, that's where you're going to get the most information. So I appreciate that as well. We'll open it up to you guys. If there's anything you guys want to talk about, or questions or comments you want to make, I always open the floor up to you and to see what you guys are interested in. Whether it's wrestling or not, hey, it's an open forum. I very much want to have this as an opportunity for you guys to dictate the stream. So hopefully everyone's doing well. Just want to send a quick shout out here to our members of the Main Event Mafia. I see you all in the chat. Salvi, Gabs, San Fran, Mama Ramos. Appreciate you all, of course, for continuing to support this venture and showing off those championship titles right beside your usernames. The Cruiserweight champions, and of course our NXT champion as well. Couldn't thank you guys enough for your support. But it's looking good. It's looking good. And we're getting close, man. We're getting close to the 3,000 subscriber mark. So in due time, our goal, of course, was to hit 3K by WrestleMania. That's still very much at play. That's still very much attainable. And me, thankfully, I'm a goal-oriented person. That gives me the opportunity to kind of set benchmarks and checkpoints on where we're at in terms of the growth of the channel. So you guys consistently just give me an extra layer of motivation when it comes to these shows. But I do appreciate that, Salvi, saying a great show among the technical difficulties. Like I said, hey, we power through. We power through them. As long as you guys can hear me, that's the most important thing. If you can see me, okay. But if you guys can hear me, great. Because that's the biggest thing. I want to be able to connect with you guys on that level. We even see a couple of new people in the chat here. New members. I see Seth freaking Rollins decided to stop by in the chat there. What's going on? And of course, longtime subscribers like Muhammad and Dion joining us in the chat tonight as well. Thank you all very much for joining us on a Sunday. This live stream might not be as long as the other ones just because of our limitations with the camera. So if I were to take this off the screen and have it just be the live camera where you can just see my face, it's going to end up being a black screen. And I don't want that. Because it's visually, no one wants to see just a plain screen. We want some visuals, which is why I enjoy this window. Because it gives you a chance to see the chat off to the side and see what I'm seeing in the center of the screen. But again, one-time deal. You're not going to see me. By tomorrow, Monday's live stream, you'll see me. And who knows, maybe I'll go to the vertical live stream. We did that once a couple Sundays ago, and that was awesome. Shout out to Gabs in the chat. I see you, Gabs. Gab says, for a new mic, my friend. This one has been really... First of all, I want to thank you for that. Thank you so much. Can't thank you enough. Shout out to Gabs in the chat. This one I've had for a couple years now. And it's like I've never had issues with it just within the last couple of weeks. The last couple of streams, really. It's a very reliable mic. My fear is maybe it's the USB, because I have a port that can connect multiple USB, items. So like, for example, I have the microphone connected. I have my mouse connected, and then the capture card that you can see our 2K gameplay with. So I'm thinking maybe that's what's going through and just giving us a little bit of wonkiness. Not sure if it's I don't think it's the internet, because I know sometimes the connection could be a little poor, but I don't see why that would affect the microphone. So, but I do appreciate it. Pretty soon, again, in large part thanks to you guys and your generosity, pretty soon we'll be able to update a lot of things. The camera, the microphone. I enjoy them because they've been very consistent. But I mean, to make a big level production of this would be pretty cool. What's going on For the Thrill? I see you. For the Thrill says, hey brother, what's going on? Hopefully you're doing well. We're talking chamber. We're talking updates on the channel. Salvi says, who are your dream opponents in a Hell in a Cell? Who starts it and who wins it? Man. Hell in a Cell. I mean, you have to put Taker, right? So, okay. You have to put Taker. Taker's matchup is the Hell in a Cell. He is the all-time greatest participant in the Hell in a Cell. It's his match. So I think about the Undertaker, and I'm like, okay, who would I want as a dream opponent for the Dead Man? I would have liked to have seen the Heart of the WWE versus the Heart of WCW. The Undertaker versus Sting in a Hell in a Cell match. Of course, this is assuming they're both in their prime. That one would be awesome. I would love to have seen that one. And who goes over? Taker. Taker has to win that. It's his match. Sanford 5, Jose and I are going to rent a bouncy house and fight in it. That's the dream match right there. Honestly, would not be opposed. Can you imagine we live stream a match? Gabs says, I've been a member since before you hit your first 100. Gabs has been here for a minute. And that's what I'm talking about. Like the OGs, like the diehards, the ride or dies that have consistently been here. Like I see you guys. And thankfully, the YouTube analytics gives you an option to kind of see who's been here in terms of like the longest, and to see the ones that have been with us since the very beginning. It's so cool to see, that you guys are still here. And I appreciate that. So shout out again to Salvi, San Fran, and Gabs as well, for sure. But it's crazy. But San Fran 5 mentions that bouncy house. Honestly, maybe we could live stream our own little premium live event, which wouldn't be a bad idea. We gotta find a guy. We gotta find a bouncy house guy. I wonder how much those run for in terms of buying. Because one thing to rent, but to buy one? But nonetheless, I do want to experiment more with the live streams. A lot of times, obviously I'm here at my desk and we're talking pro wrestling. And I enjoy that very much so. Because it gives me that feel of like, inside the NBA or the NFL Network. And it's kind of like a talk show for pro wrestling. You guys know, you guys have been here for a minute. Where I've always talked about Ernie Johnson and Rich Eisen. Those are my guys. What they've done for the sports world, I would love to contribute to the world of WWE and just pro wrestling in general. I would love to be that as well. But because we now have that option of the vertical live stream on my phone, I can live stream. So having that opportunity to kind of take you guys around and see a different perspective of what I see, or maybe experiment in terms of what we're going to be doing on the stream, opens a world of opportunities there. I know recently we did the live stream vertically, and I was able to show off the list of games that he had, right? And he's the game guy. I'm the movie guy. So I have a long, extensive list of pro wrestling DVDs that I've acquired over the course of the years. And I would love to show that with you guys and share. I see you, Gab. Gab says, I know they cost more, but come on, guys. Let's help our friend get a new mic. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Gabs. And I have been looking into it because over time, don't get me wrong, I appreciate all the equipment that I have now because it had it had become a point where you become attached to it, right? And it's like, this is the stuff I've been using since like the beginning. Granted, the the camera's a little bit newer. The microphone I've had for a minute there, and it was a gift, and I thank, my parents for that, because they helped believe in this dream and this venture, so I appreciate that very much. But I have been looking into it and seeing how I can upgrade and give it a unique feel and give it a unique type of a perspective for the channel. Sanford 5 says, y'all might give me ideas for his birthday present. Imagine. Because I'm always the kind of guy where I'm working with what I have. But I'm now thankfully at this point in this venture where we can now look forward. We can move forward and seeing the bigger picture of everything. And so that's why it's like I've invested in, for example, the features here on the live stream, giving it again a unique feel where we're able to see these windows, or being able to update the camera so it's a little bit better quality, or the editing process as well. I'm trying to get a little bit more creative when it comes to the editing. I recently uploaded a video on Friday morning where we talked about The Rock and how is his presence potentially hurting the WWE's creative in the long run. I enjoyed making that video because it was me just talking off the cuff, didn't plan any of it. Usually I like to have my bullet points. Didn't have anything planned for that. Just went off and spewed my opinion on The Rock and his current run. And then I got to add a little bit of personality and flavor to the editing, whether it was like the effects, the animation, or just the little editor notes that kind of gave it a unique perspective in comparison to the other videos that I upload here on YouTube. And I would love to do more of that as well. So again, it's a work in progress. Kevin alluded to it last, a couple streams ago, where it was like, look at where we've been in the year. We are running on the 1 year mark. I've always said March 1st of 2024 was the pivot point on where we decided to go in this direction. And we are literally days away from March 1st, making it a year. And to see the change and the growth in that year, night and day. So I'm so excited to see what the rest of the year has for all of us. Whether it's, again, the upgrades that we're going to be looking forward to, the quality and the content, and just the opportunities that are ahead of us. And I love doing these live streams with you guys and having these open conversations about literally anything. Like right here, Salvi has a great question here. Your dream elimination chamber opponents that are alive. So if I get to dude, and it's like, this chamber this year is super good because you have guys like CM Punk, John Cena. You have Drew McIntyre, Logan Paul, Damian Priest, all in the chamber. And I look at it, and I'm going to go with guys that are just active in WWE. So I wouldn't take out Punk. Punk for sure is in. I'm keeping Cena. I'm keeping Seth. And I'm keeping Drew. I'm taking out Logan Paul and Damian Priest. Love Damian Priest. And Logan Paul's growing on me. But I think we can substitute those two for someone else. So I'm going to put CM Punk, John Cena, Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and AJ Styles. Of the active roster, that's the chamber that I would love to see. That would be awesome. Salvi now asks, dead or alive? Ooh, okay. So I'll give you the alive ones, right? The one I just listed off, those are the ones alive. If we're counting past and present, dead or alive? I still would put Cena. It would basically be like a who's who of people that have already been in it. But I would like to see John Cena. I would like to see Shawn Michaels because he won the original. I would love to see Kurt Angle in there. I would throw Bret Hart in there. That's already 4. And then rounding out the last 2, I'm going to throw in Triple H. So Triple H, Shawn Michaels, John Cena, Kurt Angle, Bret Hart, And that final one, I'm going to give it to... I'm biased. I'm going to give it to CM Punk. Because I would love to see the styles of like Brett versus CM Punk, Brett versus Kurt Angle, Shawn versus Kurt Angle, Shawn and John Cena, Shawn and Triple H, Triple H and Punk. So many stories that could be told in between that Elimination Chamber matchup. The potential is limitless. So Savi says, do you have a P.O. box to send a present? Funny enough, PW101 did mention that in a previous stream. And I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great suggestion. I don't have one as of now, but I am looking into it. And that's what I mean when it comes to what we have to look forward to in the channel's future. Because eventually I would love to do a P.O. box and have a video where I get to share with you guys the stuff that I already have, or maybe stuff that you guys send in. I think that'd be an awesome opportunity. I also think that having other opportunities to... Hey, shout out to Martin. Thank you, Martin. I wish you guys could see my face, but the camera's off. For some reason, the camera gave us a little bit of issues. Appreciate you, Mike. Appreciate you, Martin, on the mic. Misspoke there. And we got our little bit of
closer to getting our mic.
There we go. And we got our animation working on us. Appreciate that, Martin. Shout out to Martin and Gabs for the donations, getting us closer to the mic. I love it. But so I was talking about the future of the channel. The P.O. box, that is something in mind. And when that's up and running, I'll make sure to let you guys know. I'm also looking into merch. I would love to start producing. A little bit of an after effect there. Got to give it a... Had to give us a little bit one time there. Merch. I would love to do merch. So we're looking into that. Again, community tab is your best friend. We're going to be uploading that information and, any other updates. If it's not in video, it's going to be on the community tab. So I don't want to overshoot my boundary here when it comes to the merch, because I'm not going to act like, oh, it's coming out next week. It's not coming out next week, but it is something I want to get the ball rolling on. I do want to get that going, especially for our members of the Main Event Mafia who are going to get first access to a lot of stuff like that. It's a work in progress, and I appreciate your guys' patience with me, as well as the dedication to the channel itself. If the camera couldn't illustrate it enough, but my appreciation is there, and I thank you guys so much. But, I mean, that's just some of the things, right? Because I know we talked about the potential of the merch, the P.O. box, and a Discord channel. We're working on it, of course, between work, my day job, and this, we're still figuring out the balance. We're still trying to figure out the balance in between those, because I very much enjoy doing this and having that opportunity to connect with you guys on another level. Whether it's on the streams, whether it's through the videos, whether it's through the shorts, through the memberships. And see, Sanford and 5 knows Gabs and Martin, and he puts the GOAT. Absolutely. 2 of our diehards there, and 2 of our dedicated members to the Main Event Mafia. So thank you guys so much. Can't ever express my appreciation enough for you guys. And it's stuff like that that's very motivating. It's very motivating to have the backings and the support of a community like the one that we built here on YouTube, and moving forward, it's a great signs to come, because it just shows everybody that, hey, there's investment, there's a collective... Shout out to Mama Ramos. I see you, Mama Ramos. Appreciate that. It's a collective acceptance that, like, we have something here. And I know I talk about it often, but I know early on there are those...
For our new mic.
I don't know about you, but I'm a fan of this new animation every time we get a super chat. But it's just another example of how there is a demand, really. Because everything is supply and demand. When I started this venture, you guys already know it. I won't say it too much because I've already talked about it before. But there was that level of hesitation, there was that level of trepidation and anxiety.
For our new mic. For our new mic.
I love that I can take a pause there and let her take over. But as I was saying, there's that level of anxiety when you start, outreaching to early birthday presents, says San Fran 5, when you start pursuing your own content here. And I know there was people out there who kind of judgmental, they're like, okay, really? Like, that's what you're going to do? It's like, yeah, it's a cool hobby. And it's now becoming almost like another job, like a part-time job. And it's cool. I enjoy the grind. I enjoy getting better. I enjoy the process. Because, the tired saying is like, it's not the destination, but it's the journey. But I do enjoy the journey that we are on. But yeah, the chat is live. Again, another big shout out to Martin Gabs and Mama Ramos. I appreciate you all. Appreciate the donos. And again, it's a great investment into upgrading our tech. Like I said, I'm very appreciative for the stuff that I have now, but it's an investment in the channel, it's an investment in the future, and it's certainly an investment in our bond, because this is how we communicate, through the mic, through the camera, and without that there is no connection. But luckily enough, through the coming year, I think we're going to see a lot of growth, both in terms of production value and in terms of just the community itself. We're going to see a lot of growth in the coming year. WrestleMania 40 was a huge proponent of the early development and rise of the channel, and I have a feeling that the build up to WrestleMania 41 and the fallout of WrestleMania 41 could probably be equal, if not greater, of an influence on the next calendar year for the channel itself. As you know, the goal is 3,000 by WrestleMania, and I would like to get to 5,000 by the end of the year. Maybe 4,000 is more likely, but sometimes you got to reach for the stars, right? If you're not reaching for the stars, you're not reaching far enough. I appreciate the hearts in the chat. I see you. I see with the hearts in the chat. Thank you so much. But we'll see. We'll see. I do want to have more engagement. I see Mama Ramos with the yeet. And I see more. Oh, we got a little bit of confetti there in the chat as well. I do want to provide more. I very much like the interactive content that we do, the live streams, because it allows us to interact with each other in real time. 100 in the chat. I see you. So I very much enjoy that. But we try to keep up with the podcast episodes and the other videos as well. For those who aren't aware, we do have a Twitter and a TikTok going. And I do have the option of going live on TikTok. And I kind of want to experiment with that too, and kind of branch out and maybe invite more people outside of YouTube over here onto YouTube. So just continuing to grow the community and introducing like-minded or, different fans of pro wrestling. Not everybody has to enjoy the same thing, but as long as we all have a sense of appreciation for the same level of entertainment, I cannot see why we all just can't come to a certain place and just enjoy it, man. When I first ventured out into this channel, I wanted to be able to combat the toxicity in pro wrestling, because there's a lot of fans out there that like to talk about the negative aspects or the tribalism and say, watch this over this, or this is trash. And it's like, I often reference Chris Van Vliet and his podcast because he's such an inspiration in terms of what we want to do with this channel. But he once said a quote that really resonates with me. And he said, don't yuck someone's yum. Just because you don't like someone's passion or their taste in something doesn't mean you have to completely trash it. Mama Ramos says, Own 3D is also helping Jose get his mic. Literally. But it's a cool opportunity to see the growth. If you guys, because everything's up, I don't take down other videos, so you can go back and see, like, the very first set of videos that I had uploaded on YouTube, and the difference is night and day. Number one, because of what I'm talking about, but also the camera quality, the mic quality, like night and day. You can see the differences. So, I mean, if you guys ever want to take a trip down memory lane, check out those early videos back in like 2022 when we were first pursuing this. You can get a laugh at it. I know I get a laugh at it, and sometimes I cringe at it because I'm like, dude, that's where I was at. You can tell I wasn't comfortable. You can tell I was a little bit intimidated by the camera and the microphone, and now it's just become second nature. So it's cool to see the growth. But they do say if you don't cringe towards your other stuff, your older content, then you haven't grown. And I know I cringe enough already when it comes to that old stuff. Salvi in the chat says, what do you think about Sammy and Kevin starting their storyline from the indies to the present? Not many did what they did in the present WWE. I love it. I really do, because Sammy and Kevin have been going all the way back to their Ring of Honor and PWG days in the mid 2000s. And to see the level of consistency that they have, this up and down relationship, because everyone, first of all, I see all the 100s and the confettis in the chat and the hearts. Thank you so much for those in the chat. But to see that level of consistency that, hey, these guys are close friends and they have their up and downs ever so often. I love that reference that they have. Because it's just like any real friendship. You know, you're going to have your ups and downs. But to see like the Ladder Wars matchup that they had in Ring of Honor, to the NXT days when Kevin Owens made his debut and attacked Sammy, who had won the NXT Championship, Kevin taking the title from him, them moving to the main roster, the team up at WrestleMania 35, the matchup at WrestleMania 37, them teaming up again at 39. It's like it's up and down all over the place. But I love it because it's long-term storytelling. You never know what's next with these two, and I know for a fact they're gonna deliver at Elimination Chamber. We don't talk about it enough because the matchup itself, the show itself, is centered around the match of the Elimination Chamber. But the non-sanctioned match between Sammy and Kevin, it's gonna be a barn burner. It's gonna be epic. It's gonna be fire. I can't wait for that matchup. Give those two enough time to go, because Sammy and Kevin, I think it's literally impossible for them to have a bad matchup. Kevin and Sammy know each other like the back of each other's hands. And if you're not looking forward to that matchup, I do not know what to tell you. Because it's going to deliver. Every time those two are together, in a one-on-one capacity or a tag team bout, it always delivers. And I can't wait for it. So thank you, Salvi, for the question there in the chat. Because, I don't know if you could tell, but I'm very interested and very passionate about the Sammy and Kevin stuff. I love it. I love it. Inject it into my veins because I love it. So thank you again for the question there, Salvi. Another great question. Another solid question. And I love it because it opens up my mind. Because I could talk about it all day and night. But when you have a question for me like that, and it lets me sink my teeth into the topic, you already know. I'm chomping at the bit when it comes to topics like that. Especially when it's two wrestlers that I think highly of and that I'm big fans of and supporters of since day one. Because I've known them since NXT. I've watched Kevin and Sammy since NXT, and then being able to go back and watch like their Ring of Honor feud and their PWG stuff. It's awesome. Shout out to Charlie in the chat. Whoa, that's a little bit of alliteration. Shout out to Charlie in the chat saying, well, I'll let the animation say it. It's going to say it pretty soon. But I appreciate the dono. Thank you so much. Shout out to Charlie. Much love and appreciation to everybody. Mama Ramos, Charlie, Gabs, Martin, you guys are real MVPs and you're real ones.
Step closer to your microphone.
Big shout out there. Shout out to Own 3D as well.
Step closer to your microphone. Step closer to your microphone.
And we always have them spam in there. We love to hear the spam because it lets you guys know that, hey, we hear you, we see you, and we appreciate you. So thank you all so much for the donos. Can't thank you enough. Getting us closer to our goals and our aspirations when it comes to the channel. A quick rise when it comes to it. A quick rise when it comes to it, man. I mean, to see the level of consistency that we've had these last couple months, it's so welcoming, and it's so, and usually I try to be really good with my choice of words, but sometimes every now and then you guys stump me and you leave me a little speechless. I'm just grateful. In a word, just grateful. Charlie says the support is awesome here. We enjoy your content, Jose. This is what we are here for. It warms. And I think there might be a second part to that. It really is. And I'm glad you guys can feel that too. That the support is awesome. It's so welcoming. Because there's not a lot of times where you're able to be exposed to a public forum like this and have the level of support. It's easy to be a hater. It really is. It's really easy to be a hater out there. But it doesn't take much to be nice and to be supportive. And you guys have done that for me since day one. It warms my heart to see how much your followers love you. And the love is reciprocated, man. I love you guys. And that's funny too. Because I was literally talking about this with my family. That there's a lot of like family dynamics out there where the men aren't supposed to express as much love like that, right? But luckily, I was raised in a household where love was the foundation of everything. You gotta love what you do in life. You gotta love those who support you in life. And as long as your life is fueled by the idea, by the emotion of love, you cannot do wrong. And I genuinely believe that. So when I tell you guys that I love and appreciate you all, just know that comes from the heart. And I wish that I could express that in a much more deeper level with you guys. But this is the best we can do, right, as human beings. And I appreciate you guys every single time we go live and seeing the familiar faces. And, well, I guess the familiar names, because I don't see your guys' face. And today you guys can't see mine. But to see the familiar names and the friendly names and the friends that we've all made over this time, again, it makes it more praise. Shout out to Charlie there in the chat. It makes it all the world more worthwhile. So I appreciate you guys and your patience with the channel. Like we said, sometimes not every stream's going to be perfect. We're going to have our technical difficulties, but you guys managed to see past that, and we move forward, and we still have a good time. And funny enough, I look at the connection here on the stream and it says good, where the early parts of this stream it said poor, and now we're doing good apparently. But we'll have another live stream Monday where we'll talk about Monday Night Raw. Might share my my extensive collection of DVDs if that's something we're interested in. And then Monday, of course, look forward to the poll that we'll have up and running for Thursday's live stream, another interactive live stream. And I look forward to those Thursday live streams because it gives me an opportunity to discuss a deeper level of pro wrestling and really talking about the individuals behind the stories. And it kind of helps me improve on my storytelling ability. A couple of streams ago, I received, some compliments. I know Gabs was one of them, and I believe Salvi and Martin was there as well, talking about how you guys enjoy that storytelling element of those live streams. And I love it, man. Like, that's what I look forward to the most, is being able to share a story with you guys. Because over time, I watched pro wrestling with my family, right? My brother, my parents, and it's gotten to the point in my life where it's reintroduced that love, because now, more than ever, I'm seeing, like, again, for example, my mom and my sister have kind of become more interested and invested in the story, and that's super cool. I'm gonna get real candid with you guys, and maybe it's good that you can't see my face because I might get a little emotional, but it got to the point where last year for WrestleMania 40, again, this was around the time that we had that pivot into pro wrestling, and it really showed the level of growth that the channel had, but also it helped us as a family come together. And to see someone like Cody Rhodes finish his story and focus on winning the WWE title for his family. I remember at the end of that show, we all watched it and were like in awe. And it was so cool. It was a culmination of years of storytelling. And sis, shout out to San Fran 5. I see you. Gotta pay the tax. I appreciate that so much, brother. Thank you so much.
Gotta pay the tax.
Gotta pay the tax, the chat says. Thank you so much for that. Shout out to San Fran 5. Shout out to, again, Gabs, Martin, Mama Ramos, Charlie. Thank you all so much. But WrestleMania 40 was like the culmination of that. And I remember sending out a message because this was at the time where
Gotta pay the tax.
this was at the time where WrestleMania had just ended. We're all in our rooms about to head to bed. And I sent a message out to them and I just said, I want to thank you guys for watching this with me and enjoying the ride, because it's cool to watch wrestling, but to see it with other people around you that you love and seeing that level of interest and investment on other people, it's super rewarding. It's like showing someone your favorite show or showing them your favorite movie and seeing them equally as interested in it. It's super cool. It's super cool. So to have this opportunity to share it with a wide spread of people that I may not have ever met in my life in person, but to see you guys come in with that level of interest and match our energy, it's the best. Salvi here with another comment saying, how do you think, or rather a question, how do you think the match would go with Jimmy and Brett versus Jay and Owen? That's really interesting because really you would expect it to be the Usos versus the Harts. But we know that there was history between the brothers having matches. Obviously at WrestleMania 10, Bret Hart and Owen Hart had arguably one of the best WrestleMania matches of all time. And then conversely, you had Jimmy and Jay, who had one of the maybe not so good matches at WrestleMania. But I like this. I like this because of the contrast. Bret Hart and Owen Hart. We know Bret is the more popular brother of the two. So he teams up with Jimmy, who necessarily isn't the most popular brother. It's Jay. So Jay and Owen Hart, both being the younger brothers, one being more popular, one not being so popular. So it's interesting to see that dynamic between the older brother and the younger brother, which is ironic enough because my brother's in the chat as well. I think it would be very cool. I think there's a lot of story to be told there. But I don't know if it would be Jimmy and Brett. I think, hear me out, maybe it'll be interesting to see Jay and Brett because of the level of popularity. To see someone like Jimmy and Owen maybe develop that jealousy that, the other brother isn't getting as much attention. And to see someone like Jimmy and Owen want to one-up Jay and Brett, giving them flowers, giving them that opportunity to get the upper hand. There's a lot of meat to be, taken off the bone when it comes to that. I like the prospect of Jimmy and Brett versus Jay and Owen, but I think narrative-wise, I think Jay would team with Brett and Jimmy would team with Owen. Who would go over? I would like to see Jimmy and Owen go over. Because Jay and Brett don't necessarily need the victory. Brett's a Hall of Famer. Jay's about to win, in my opinion, Jay's about to win the World Championship. But Owen and Jimmy. And they say Jimmy's the funny brother, too. And Owen's the prankster. I don't know. That would be really cool to see. I mean, obviously we'll never see it. But awesome. That's an awesome hypothetical. Shout out to Salvi in the chat there. Again, another banger question by Salvi. Salvi's the question king over here. Question royalty. I love it. Charlie says yeet. And they love it as well. That's awesome. I don't know about you, but I feel like the stream's really running, flowing by. We were running at an hour the last check-in. And now we're about to hit 2. I love it. And it was a little bit of an earlier start time. Usually we go at 9 o'clock, at least 9 o'clock in Arizona. This time we went an hour earlier. Wanted to see, we've been having a lot later lives. So I wanted to see, okay, can I go an hour earlier and see where we're at? Because then it opens up the opportunity to have potentially a longer live stream, or again, just seeing where we're at. Because traditionally I have it 9 to 11, but I wanted to see an hour earlier. And I know traditionally I have it set to 9, but like I said, I wanted to see at 8 o'clock and see. 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, that's usually our start time. I kind of want to experiment with other times as well. I try not to affect the Sunday, Monday, Thursday lineup. I try to affect that because we've been very consistent in terms of the turnout, and it's been well, so I don't want to mess with it too much. But to start other days as well would be interesting. I know on Saturdays, occasionally we'll have a live stream following a premium live event. So, for example, the Elimination Chamber event is coming up. I'll be doing a more likely, like 85% chance, we'll be doing a live stream following that event. But there's also the possibilities of maybe doing, live reactions. So Monday Night Raw, you know, is live around the world. And I've thought about doing maybe a side by side where I'm watching Monday Night Raw live, having a reaction with you guys. I've thought about it. I don't know if that's something we're interested in, because it would be a few hours earlier. So, for example, I say 9 to 8 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. If I were to do a watch along with Monday Night Raw, it would be 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So it would be about a 3-hour earlier start time in comparison. And I don't know who is interested in that. I would like to do that. But again, just a thought. There's quite a list of things to get on, to accomplish, I should say. One, the P.O. Box. I think that's a great idea. The Discord. I think it's a good idea. I want to work on that. The microphone. I would love to do that as well. Gab says, will you be talking about China soon? Oh, that's a great point. That's a great point, Gabs. I know we did talk about China as a potential topic. I was actually going to include China as, spoiler alert, I was going to include China as a option on the poll, and to see if people were interested in that. I think it has a really good shot of winning it. If not, I can always do it for another live stream, but I haven't forgotten about it. I did want to get through some of the other ideas because I know I promised the ECW video, the Elimination Chamber listing, which we did tonight, obviously. The China one is on the docket. I do want to talk about China because I think her contributions to the wrestling business should not be overlooked. The way Miss Elizabeth ushered in a level of importance to the managerial position for women, China, I think, was the next level where she was able to get physical with the men and became much more of an enforcer and was the next evolution of what a wrestling star should be. Not just the women. I don't want to pigeonhole it into a gender thing, but just in terms of the character and the presentation, she superseded pro wrestling and became a main attraction amongst mainstream audiences. So China definitely is on the docket. That is definitely a topic that's on the poll. And I do think it has a good shot because I think a lot of people share that level of interest in the ninth wonder of the world, Joni Laurer. So, yeah. But I love your enthusiasm. I love your interest in the topic. And when I see that it's there, it's only more of an incentive to capitalize on it. I want to be able to give you guys content that you're looking forward to and that you want to hear. Because that's what it's all about. Like Cody Rhodes always says, what do you guys want to talk about? That's me asking you guys, what do you guys want to talk about? And if that's a topic that other people would like to hear, then you best believe it's going to be a topic that will be covered. Just want to take the time again to thank San Fran 5, Mama Ramos, Charlie, Gabs, Martin. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate you. You guys are the real stars of the live stream. And how ironic is it that you can't see my face? You can't see my face on the live stream because I'm not the main star today. The main star are those individuals who are generous enough to provide more. Basically, you guys are funding the mic at this point, and I appreciate that, and I'm going to get on it. I'm going to get on it right away. And again, the goal here is to provide the best quality content for you guys to enjoy. And I can't thank you guys enough. Again, for the patience, for the understanding. We've had a couple of streams there where we had a little bit of an issue. I'll never forget the one live stream that for some reason our internet, I saw the heart in the chat. Thank you so much for the hearts. Where the internet was just super off. Like our internet's really good, but that one day it was just off and I had to cancel a stream and I was so frustrated. And I remember posting that community post saying like, hey, I'm sorry due to technical difficulties, the stream was canceled. And the comments were super understanding, and you know, that's when I knew, as if I didn't know already, that's when I knew, okay, we got a special group of people here. So I'll always try to do my best for you guys, for the real ones that have been here since day one, and for the new ones that have joined us along the ride. All the love and appreciation to you guys as well. I want to see if there's any possibility of adjusting the camera. I don't think so, but yeah, because you see it's still frozen there, down in the corner. Let's see if I can try to reboot the camera without affecting the stream. Oh, wait a minute. There we go. All right. We're learning on the fly. You guys already know it's a work in progress. You see all these people on YouTube and they're streamers who know what they're doing. I don't want to pretend like I know what I'm doing. I'm learning with you guys. Some of you guys are probably more well versed than I am. But I'm just thankful enough that we finally got something here. And it's not just me talking and not, you know, I like to put a face to the voice. But I do appreciate the feedback there, Gabs, about the Ninth Wonder World China. China's one of the more tragic stories too. I mean, we've talked about tragic stuff on the streams. You know, we talked about the Von Erichs. We talked about Bruiser Brody. We kind of alluded to the Benoit stuff, and that's something I do want to talk about extensively. But I think I'm going to save that kind of towards the summer because there are other stuff I want to talk about. The Benoit's a big one. That's a big one. But the China stuff is kind of sad too. I'd love to hear from you guys in the chat. What are some of your favorite China memories or some dream matches? I think the most obvious dream match when it comes to China has to be her against Rhea Ripley. That matchup would sell out a stadium. To have the ninth wonder of the world against the Eradicator, Rhea Ripley, dude, those two would make magic together. And again, another example of a star who has just reached out to the public in such a way where she crosses mainstream attention. Because it's one thing to be big in the wrestling bubble, but to be big in like just all the sports and entertainment, that's something that China and Rhea Ripley both have in common. And don't be surprised if one day Rhea Ripley dips into acting, because I definitely think that's a possibility. I'm not saying she's going to win an Oscar because she's a great actress, but I do think she has the screen presence and the personality and the talent and the look, quite frankly, to command a screen. Gab says Jose is back on. Yeah, finally, right? It took him long enough, but yeah, he's back on. He's back on. But we do have a couple of ideas on the docket when it comes to the live streams. I don't want to give away too much of the polls because I enjoy that sense of a surprise. But China definitely is one that I want to talk about. But I wanted to talk about Macho Man, this last week. Because I thought about putting China on last week's poll. But I was like, you know what? I really want to talk about Macho Man. I'm hoping they won't mind me not doing a poll for 1 week and then just bringing it back the following. The only thing is I didn't get to making it today. So tomorrow, Monday, depending when you're watching this, Monday morning, there will be the poll. And luckily enough, we get a lot of votes on those polls like rapidly. And it's like we get to the point where we kind of already have an idea of what we're going to be talking about. For example, we had a poll a couple of days ago about who is going to win the men's chamber matchup. Cena, Rollins, Drew, or Punk. And we got 116 votes. That's crazy. I've never had that many votes for a poll. And the overwhelming favorite at 69 votes is John Cena. Sanford says breaking news. What's going on? Breaking news in the chat. breaking news in the chat. What's going on? I'm over here checking my phone. I'm like, well, what am I saying? What am I saying? What am I missing here, huh? Hogan stated he was almost at UFC 1. Can you not? Oh my god. I'm over here thinking it's legit. Didn't Hulk Hogan say that he was like in the early stages of pride fighting and like pride fighting wasn't even a thing? I don't know. Hulk Hogan, don't even get me started. When we did that, not a rib, he literally stated that. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. When we did that on the stream, the Hulk Hogan Lies segment, that was fun. And I was like, you know what? It was like a 2.5 hour stream. So I was like, let me just clip out the Hulk Hogan segment and just upload it on its own. That thing is like nearly at 1,000 views. Like, that's pretty cool that it did that well. It's one of our most viewed clips on the channel. And again, that's in large part thanks to you guys. But it's because it's such an easy well, I don't want to say easy, but it's one of those topics where it's like everyone has an opinion on Hogan. Good, bad, or indifferent. Everyone feels strongly about him in some form. I'm just getting some updates here on the channel. We recently just passed another milestone. We're 30 away from 2,600 subs. So thank you again to those who decided to sub to the channel. And thanks again to those who are Main Event Mafia members. Your guys' consistent growth and support in the channel are really big indicators of what we're doing here on YouTube. Can't thank you guys enough. I see some people here are saying John Cena should win the Chamber. Or has to. Some people are saying he has to win the Chamber. But I'd like to hear from you guys. I mean, we have the poll going up on who we think is going to win the Chamber. I'm not going to share my prediction just yet because that would defeat the purpose of the video, that I have coming up later this week. But I want to hear from you guys. Who do you think should face Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania? Cody Rhodes, the WWE champion, now getting close to a year. In what, maybe a couple of months? Because it's like the first week of April, he'll hit a year. Who do you think he'll face at WrestleMania? Salvi, I see you. Another great question. What do we got for me? What Mexico City should host a WWE PLE in 2025? On what wrestlers should main event it? I feel like the only place to have is Mexico City, right? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but is that not where the Aztec Stadium is? That's where the NFL have visited. I think it was the Cardinals and 49ers. Shout out San Francisco. They had their matchup, or their game, I should say, was at the Aztec Stadium. I think that would be a great setting for the WWE to go for a PLE. Who main events it? Ooh, okay. The matchup I want to happen isn't really possible because they're on different brands. But I would love to see someone like Cody versus Penta, right? But being that they're on different brands, I think it'd be really cool to see Penta have a world title matchup against Gunther. I think Gunther's losing the title though. And I don't think Jey Uso versus Penta has the same type of appeal. So, Cody's the biggest thing in North America. I think it'd have to be him. Him against Andrade, I think would be really cool. Give them something fresh. Give him a title matchup there. Him against Andrade. And again, a shout out and a throwback to their matchup at AEW when they had that street fight. So that'd be really cool. Andrade versus Cody would probably be my bet. Penta and Ray. But it had to be a championship, right? It had to be a championship. So I would say Cody versus Andrade. But my real pick would be Cody versus Penta. That'd be the matchup I want to see. He also claimed that he turned down the main role in the Wrestler movie. I swear, yeah, he did say that. And Mickey Rourke, I think, won a Golden Globe, or at least almost won it. Hulk Hogan, we coming for you. Oh yeah, Hulk Hogan, yeah. That chant from Booker T. Yeah, did you guys see the video of NXT crowd trolling Booker T with that? Yeah, when Booker T was arriving for NXT, the crowd was chanting in unison, Hulk Hogan, we coming for you, which is a reference to Booker T's botched promo back in WCW. I think it was 96 or 97. It was around then when Booker T managed to, let out a certain word that I can't repeat. If you guys know, just look up Booker T and Hulk Hogan promo, and I'm sure it'll pop up. It's one of the most famous botches in a promo of all time. How's the mic been, by the way? I know since last time we checked in, it was kind of cutting in and out. But Booker T, and on the note of Booker T, I don't think gets enough credit. I genuinely believe he's one of the greatest wrestlers of all time because of his ability as an athlete, as a character. Every gimmick he had, super entertaining. And he was invested in his character. When you can see somebody really, oh man, oh my God, excuse me. When you see someone really dedicate themselves to the character, you can see it. Like Booker T had so much fun with like Goldust or the King Booker gimmick, and in ring doesn't get enough credit, but his character work off the charts. It's no wonder he's a 2-time Hall of Famer. Funny enough, I think my sister kind of grew up a fan of Booker T because she always loved saying his name. He's awesome, dude. Booker T, one of the guys that I would love to meet because I just see him and I think, man, this guy has so much knowledge about the business, both in and out of the ring. And I was watching the first episode of LFG, which is basically the WWE's take on like The Voice. And the participants, the athletes involved in this show, get the opportunity to select their coach, their mentor, really. And your options are Mickey James, who is an all-time great, 7-time world champion, or 6-time world champion, excuse me. Then you had Booker T, 2-time Hall of Famer, Bubba Ray, and The Undertaker. And I know what you're thinking. The obvious choice is The Undertaker. Who wouldn't want to be under the learning tree of the dead man? But I really think Booker T would be my pick. Because just all around, in the ring, on their microphone, character, presentation, the mind, one of the best of all time. And he has his own wrestling school, his own little wrestling promotion as well, Reality of Wrestling, out down in Houston, Texas. So all around, gets it. I think he might be the guy. Love Taker, it would be great to learn from him. But I think Booker T would be the call. I think. Personally. But I would love to see that show more. It's on A&E, but being that we have YouTube TV, A&E isn't on YouTube TV, so I had to watch it online. So hopefully they have the other episodes available online as well. But no, LFG seems like a really good show. I enjoyed it so far. Like I said, it's like the WWE's take on The Voice, which is very unique. Kind of like an updated version of Tough Enough. And shout out to those who remember Tough Enough. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this week. Like I said, Monday we're gonna have our live stream following Monday Night Raw. Thursday we're gonna have our topic of discussion, our Throwback Thursday live stream, if you will. Saturday, we're gonna have one following the Elimination Chamber. Then there's another Sunday live stream, and I'm thinking about implementing more of the vertical. I'd love to hear from you guys. What did you guys think of the vertical live stream? We did that once a couple Sundays ago. It was something different. The only difference, well, the biggest difference really, with the vertical live stream is you don't get to see these, you know, little graphics at the top of the screen because I do it off my phone. It's something different. It's kind of like the presentation of like a TikTok live, but it does have the opportunity to have us travel. Like, I think it'd be really cool to do live streams in other locations. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm a homebody, right? Naturally, I'm an introvert. I love to be in my little cave here and talk about wrestling with you guys. But it'd be cool to have a different environment. Like maybe one day go out in the backyard. Maybe one day I'm out in the kitchen. I don't know. There's rooms for different opportunities. Maybe take you guys in the garage. Because every now and then I like going in the garage. Basically like my mini gym, I guess. It plays into both our man cave, but also like my mini gym. So there's other possibilities to explore when it comes to these live streams. It's very much pro wrestling focused. I don't want to lose that focus because that's what it is at the heart of it. But if we can incorporate other entertaining aspects, better believe we're willing to experiment and give it a go. Because sometimes these ideas aren't going to stick, but how are you going to know if you don't try? You know? So that'd be cool. That'd be a cool opportunity to, again, take you guys around with me and just see a different side of the stream and see a different side of me, really, because there's only so much I can do sitting in a chair, a nice chair, by the way, shout out to the family, and do so much. Whereas other way around, I can move around, I can have you in my hand, and hey, you know, we'll see different things together. So that'd be cool. I think I might do that more often. But I love it. Love it. When I first started this channel, we were doing a lot of content, you know, in terms of like a video presentation, whether it was like listings, whether it was reactions, and not so much live content. And I've always, oh man, I had an opportunity to do them early, but I didn't. Because I was so hesitant to do live because, again, there was that sense of intimidation. But one thing my dad always said was like, you gotta go live. Gotta go live. And eventually I did go live, and I was like, damn, I should listen to him earlier. Should have went live a lot earlier. And now I love doing lives. I look forward to it. Salvi, I see you. I've been meaning to ask you, what if during the invasion movement and there was a no contract clause and WWE could use all of WCW wrestlers? How would it have gone? I tell you what, it would have been a whole hell of a lot better because they missed out on guys like the entire NWO, you know, Hall, Nash, Hogan. No Scott Steiner, no Ric Flair. They didn't have Sting. They didn't have guys like Rey Mysterio Jr., Lex Luger. Like, dude, there were so many guys that weren't there. I think the invasion probably would have been fondly remembered because when it came to the invasion angle, they had to relegate to both ECW and WCW. Don't get me wrong, I like the idea, but you had to see guys from WWE like Stone Cold, Kurt Angle, Shane McMahon, guys that weren't really with WCW, they were now with the Alliance. Didn't make sense. But if you would have had guys like the NWO, Sting, Goldberg, you know, it would have lent a lot more credibility to the feud because it ultimately ended up coming off of like WWE versus the bench of WCW. The idea was there, but the players were lacking. It would have been a lot better. That's actually a really good idea. And you know, I already have, you know, my handy dandy notes over here, but I would love to do an invasion video and book the Invasion pay-per-view, because back in 2001 they had a pay-per-view for this storyline, the Invasion pay-per-view, where it had the Alliance versus WWF or WWF at the time. And like you said, what if these guys were available? What if we had every star at the disposal of the WWE to present this larger than life pay-per-view event? Because for the longest, the Invasion pay-per-view was the most bought pay-per-view of all time. And imagine what it could have been had you had these bigger names. So I like the idea. That'll be another video, especially with TNA and WWE right now in partnership. Invasion angles are in. Love the idea, Salvi. Shout out again to Salvi for the fantastic, the phenomenal questions here in the chat, because you just hit gold. We're going to do that. I talked about it too in the past about doing an Invasion video. Didn't get a lot of feedback about it, which is fine. Not everybody has to comment on every video. But I like the idea of doing an Invasion what if scenario. So we have a few ideas here off to the side about potential video ideas. So, but yeah, so much left on the table. Ric Flair, Sting, Goldberg, the NWO, Rey Mysterio Jr. So many names that they could have gone with. So many names. And the Invasion angle had a ripple effect because it was in 01 that the story ended. But then in 02, that's when you get the NWO. That's when you got Rey Mysterio and Ric Flair, Scott Steiner, Kevin Nash. Like, it had a ripple effect, but it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same. Again, the idea was there, but the execution was off. Thank you for the question, though. Appreciate that, Salvi. Appreciate you guys in the chat too. One of our most lively chats. I mean, like, dude, we're seeing a lot of familiar names, and what I love is I'm seeing a lot of green, meaning the usernames. Because when the usernames are green, that means you guys are main event Mafia main event members. And I see Salvi, San Fran, Gabs, Mama Ramos. I see you guys. I see you all in the chat there. Diehard members of the channel. Can't thank you enough for your support. But again, shout out to Dion, Seth freaking Rollins apparently in the chat as well. Muhammad, Martin, thank you guys so much. Charlie, can't thank you guys enough. But again, a major shout out to the MVPs of the stream. San Fran, Gabs, Martin, Charlie, Mama Ramos. All 5 of you, man. Can't thank you guys enough for continuing to support the venture, to continuing to support the movement. Really, we've become a movement here. The J area. The J area is a movement at this point, because not only is it an opportunity for us to build as a wrestling community, but just as a family, really, because I look at you guys as friends, I look at you guys as family, and I look forward to always seeing you guys here on the streams. Great questions, great comments, and great ideas. Always brought on these streams. Can't thank you guys enough for that. But like I said, for the week, Monday, we have the episode coming out, J Area Wrestling. We have the Monday stream. We have the predictions video that will go up Wednesday. We'll have a predictions video for the Elimination Chamber event. Thursday's our stream. Friday, I try to resolve for fun, unique videos. So we'll see you on Friday for that. Saturday, we'll do a live stream following the chamber. And then Sunday, another live stream. I mean, dude, these live streams have been lively. You know, no pun intended. But I always look forward to them. So thank you guys so much. I want to do more polls. And I certainly want to do more for the Main Event Mafia, because you guys are certainly a big part of this channel. And so that's why we talked about the P.O. Box. We talked about the possibility of merch. And thanks to you guys, the possibility of getting updated equipment. So that's a big proponent of why we continue to strive for great things here on YouTube. And again, don't forget to follow us here on TikTok and on Twitter or X. What do you guys call it, by the way? I'm curious. Do you guys call it X or Twitter? Because I know it's called X, but I'm just so used to saying Twitter. And every time I say Twitter, I always end up saying or X. or whatever it is you call it. Because it's like, it's hard to keep up with. I don't know why they changed it. I really don't. But yeah, a lot to look forward to this upcoming week on the channel. And we're working on more shorts, because that's something I enjoy making. I haven't made a short in a minute there, because a lot of the shorts I've been doing have been like the rankings. I like the rankings. I have fun making those rankings, even though some people are against them and they're like, you put this guy above this guy. Oh, this ranking sucks. It's like, dude, it's a blind ranking. I can't choose the order they come in. I would love to put this guy over the other guy, but it's like, I didn't know he was coming up. And at the end of the day, I always say, my list is not the right list, but it is just my list. So I welcome anybody to make their own, because it's all over TikTok. But yeah, how's everyone doing? Hopefully everyone's doing well. Recently we went to the movies. We caught the new Captain America movie with starring Anthony Mackie and Harrison Ford in it. Won't share spoilers because I know maybe there's some people in the chat that haven't seen it, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. Big movie buff. You guys already know. You can see it over here on the side. Big movie buff. So hopefully you guys enjoyed your weekend. Hopefully you have great things ahead for the upcoming work week or next weekend. You know, what are you guys' plans? What's going on? But we're doing good. We're doing good. And also, I want to make a little bit of an update here of the background here. I mean, I have my book back here. I always have my book. Shout out to Brian Gerwertz. Have the winged eagle in the corner, which I mean is one of the best gifts I've ever received. Shout out. And then we have our 2K balloons. And hopefully soon we can get a 3 in there. So that'd be nice. You can't see it too, but I actually got a gift too from my sister. Little Funko Pop of Rikishi. Big Quiche. Nice little Funko Pop there. And also with those vertical live streams, it would be interesting to kind of flip the camera and have you guys see the setup. Because I mean, I'm not going to pretend like my setup's the best, but it is my setup and I'm a little biased. And it'd be cool to have you guys see the other end of it and see what I'm working with. But I think the next time we do a stream, well, no, because tomorrow's Monday. And traditionally I like doing my regular stream, like my regular format. But following that, maybe we'll do a surprise stream. And it'll be vertical. Because I do want to experiment with that. Plus, I wouldn't have to worry about the microphone, right? I mean, like, again, I love the microphone I have, but it's been acting up. It's been acting a fool lately. At least on the phone. It shouldn't be that much. Sanford 5 says, can you help me in GM mode for SmackDown vs. Raw 06? I can be your liaison. I can be your little assistant GM. It's been a minute, though, since I've played 06. But yeah, a great segue there. Shout out to Sanfran 5. Sanfran 5 usually has his live streams on Tuesdays. And I guess it's a little bit of a hint on what the next stream could be about. You guys can check out his content, of course, over at Sanfran 5. If you're interested in following, I always keep a link to his channel on my homepage. If you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see a link to Sanfran 5's channel where you can follow him. He does the occasional live stream traditionally on Tuesdays and likes to do a poll and to see your guys' reaction and see your guys' taste in what's a possible game that they would like to see streamed over on his channel. So if you haven't followed Sanfran 5 or subbed to his channel, consider doing so, man. Sometimes I pop in there every now and then. I see Salvi85 had a comment in the chat there. Love to see what that was. Appreciate the hearts in the chat, by the way. I see those. always a good time seeing you guys here in the live streams. If there's anything you guys have to ask or any questions or comments that you would like to be included in the conversation, please feel free to comment that below in the chat. It's a judgment-free zone. I really don't believe in the idea of there being any dumb questions. I've grown up to recognize that there are no such things as dumb questions. And luckily, I don't think we ever have to worry about that. We haven't really gotten any kind of questions that were out there. Everyone's been so well in depth and understanding of the questions, and I look forward to them. Otherwise, we're going to start kind of closing down on the stream. But I see that Salvi, again, has another question. Love it. Love to see it. What do you think would happen if all of WCW wrestlers went straight to the WWE during the Attitude Movement? Whoa. So I'm assuming key stars. But imagine, wait, hold on. I can feel a sneeze coming on. We're back. Okay. So if they went straight to the Attitude Era, are we talking about like an attack, like an invasion, or like signing? Because imagine if the WCW guys did sign with the Attitude Era. The only way that could happen is if there was no such thing as those guaranteed contracts. If we didn't have guaranteed contracts, we wouldn't have to worry about them staying. But that's the one issue. If we're talking about an invasion angle during the Attitude Era, and we saw DX had made an attempt at invading Nitro in '98. Imagine if the NWO did that to the Attitude Era. And we saw guys like Hall, Nash, Hogan, other guys like Sting, Conan, Luger, Savage. It would have resulted in great TV. I feel like they would have been smart enough to have done so because it would be great TV to build up hype and interest in the WCW product, but also good business for the WWE because it's on their show. So viewership would have gone through the roof. It could have been potentially messy because you have so many stars in one group or at one time, I think. The potential's there, but I always say you can have the greatest planning in the world. It's all about the execution. If all the WCW wrestlers went straight to the WWE during that Attitude Era movement, I'm afraid maybe it would have gone under because there's just too much going on. You got to balance it out. People are going to get lost in the shuffle. Or we would have seen the introduction of the brand split earlier. So in 2002, we introduced the brand extension that had Raw and SmackDown being separate brands. Maybe if the guys in WCW jump over to the WWE, we just see that timeline moved a little bit forward. And in 97, 98, whenever the time would be, that's when we start seeing two shows, Raw and SmackDown. I think that's a possibility, and having them split between. But it's interesting. So many different avenues can be taken, whether it's a classic invasion angle, whether it's a brand split. I don't know. It's really limitless. But a solid question there. Thank you so much. And that's something we can dive more into in the future video about the invasion that I have lined up. Thanks to Salvi, of course. Shout out again to a great question. Thank you so much for that. But it's a great talking point. And I see there's interest because Salvi's already brought up a couple of WCW/invasion questions. So I already see it. There's some interest there on the part of Salvi. I would love to see if other people are as equally or even more interested in the invasion, because that's something I would love to talk about. Great question there. Thank you again. We're coming up close here at the half hour mark, so we're going to start kind of bringing the stream to a close. Again, if you have a question or comment, please feel free to throw them down in the chat before we begin ending. But as a bit of housekeeping rules, I always try to recap here towards the end of the stream. Like I said, join us on Monday evening where we talk about Monday Night Raw. Then we're going to have an episode of the J Area Wrestling Podcast on Monday afternoon. We'll have a predictions video on Wednesday for the Elimination Chamber event. Thursday's live stream, of course, a throwback Thursday live stream where we will talk about the topic that you want to talk about. That poll will be up and ready Monday morning. And then on Friday, we'll have a fun little video, something unique, something different, followed by another live stream on Saturday and Sunday times will vary. We'll have that up on the community post, and just keep the date with the community tags, because those posts will help keep you guys informed and in the know when it comes to these streams. I might be experimenting with a little bit of an earlier start time. I know traditionally it's about 9 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, but I think we're going to kind of branch into the 8 o'clock hour. So we'll try there, and we'll see if you guys can join us at 9 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. Totally cool. If not, we'll be in a little earlier than usual. So love to see you guys then. Love to see you guys there. Again, major shout out to all the members of the Main Event Mafia and the members of the channel who have showed up for today's live stream, with an extra special thanks to people like Gabs, Martin, Mama Ramos, Charlie, and SanFran5 there. Thank you so much for your contributions and the love that you sent our way. And we got great things ahead of us. It's a work in progress, but slowly but surely, we're going to make it big. I promise you that. If there's one thing I was blessed with, it was the stubbornness of my mom and the dreams of my father. So you know we're going to be getting there. So thank you guys so much. Appreciate everyone in the chat.